Okay, now we have the final card of the tarot, or possibly the card which comes before the first card of the tarot, because again, everything in tarot is talking about cycles and change and going back to your previous stage yet again. And this card is called the Fool, or le feu, namely the mad person. And this is a very peculiar character, and a very peculiar image. It took me a bit of a while to work out one particular aspect of the card, and I'm going to show it to you by contrast to the Temperance card. What do you notice is different about the Fool's face? It's at a peculiar and rather inhuman angle, and you realize, therefore, that he's wearing a mask. Some people say that this is because he's putting over an image to the rest of the world, and maybe that is true to a certain degree, but he's also got these incredibly inhumanly piercing blue eyes, no whites to them at all, when the other characters who don't need to be inhuman have human-looking eyes. So there is something rather spooky about this being, something rather peculiar about him, maybe even creepy. He's got a staff in one hand, which he's using to prop himself up, and that's red. And we normally see red as a bit of a base colour. So maybe his staff is not just to help prop himself up, but he's actually using his anger and his hatred and other negativity, shall we call it, to keep himself going somehow. This is a character who's been through all the stages that we've mentioned previously, each and every single one, and has now reached a level of conceitedness and arrogance. He's wearing a mask, so he doesn't actually know where he's going. The mask is looking up, so he's not actually looking where his feet are. And right at the bottom, there's a little fierce, furry creature biting at him, eroding the very foundation upon which he walks, upsetting maybe his posture, his ability to get on and get by, and he's completely oblivious to this. The Fool is oblivious to the fact that he's making mistakes. He is literally making an arse of himself, because his arse is showing because the creature has been pulling his trousers down. But yet he's oblivious to that. So he's being crippled in his movement. He's showing off his backside and he doesn't know it. And there's so many other things about him which are full of negativity. He hasn't got all that much in the way of possessions. I mean, this knapsack he's got on his back looks similar to the symbol that we had previously of the money bags, which were losing money, but he's keeping something close to himself on a staff which is blue, talking about spiritual things. So there's something spiritual holding on to something which is material. As you pointed out, spiritual doesn't always mean things from God. Spiritual can mean internal change, which is part of the process you go through as you go through the stages as defined by the various cards of the tarot. So, his spirituality is rigid, like wood, unbending, fixed. He's showing signs of resentment. He doesn't know what's happening to him. He's oblivious. And there's something creepy about him. He doesn't have the same hat that the magician had on it, so it's not a sense of infinite spirituality. Instead, it's round, maybe like a coin. It's round, maybe like a mushroom. So there's a lot of very intriguing things about him. A complex character, you might say. But think for a minute. Have you ever known someone, either in work or business, who has ascended through the ranks, gone through all the stages of initiation, got their degree, their masters, they worked hard at their career, and were under the impression that they knew so much, but yet they couldn't train you how to do your job, but yet they were resentful against anyone else who actually had a different point of view that could work better. who had, let's say, a very rigid way of looking at the world, but yet they were maybe even crippling their ability to survive through their rigid or slightly negative and resentful manner. These people are the fool. But you know, tarot doesn't just have one meaning. There's lots of other things heavily enmeshed in the symbols. And sometimes it is said the word fool can speak for a state of joy, not necessarily blind because of resentment and bitterness, but not paying attention to things which are painful. A sense of happiness that comes from being unaware, being naive, and maybe even getting joy from that. I mean, sometimes it is actually best that you don't know some things. Sometimes you can get very miserable through knowing too much about this, that, and the other. Children, or maybe even first-year undergraduates, can exhibit the same mentality as the fool, in both respects. I mean, I always find it peculiar when someone who is studying and therefore has not fully completed their studies, and maybe is in their first term of their first year as an undergraduate, would say, well, I'm studying this, therefore I know it. No. There's a whole world of difference between studying and study ed. But, as the fool is telling us, you can be someone who has study ed and can still be a fool, or you can be someone who is studying and can still be a fool. So the message of the fool to you is again to try and let go of your resentments and your bitterness, and to prepare for another journey. Because when you've realized that there's more initiations to go through, and you've got to go to another stage of being, or start a new job, or a new career, or a new future, or a new state of mind, and return to some of the messages of the previous cards, possibly even going back to the magician card and starting all over again, but in a different setting with a different background, only then can you start to escape the trap of the fool, because the fool is a human character. Remember the riddle of the Sphinx. What is it that has 4 legs in the morning, 2 legs at noon, and 3 legs in the afternoon of his life? Well, this character's got 3 legs in the afternoon of his life. It's not a staff of office he's holding. It's a crutch. What crutches do you hold on to? Okay. Here ends the journey of the major arcana of the Oswald Worth Tarot. Good fortune, God bless to one and all.